everybody, it's Kimberly. I'm an eternal life student, which simply means human. At the end of the day, that really is the only title that we need. I think people are like books, a living library. We each have our own stories to share, and by sharing them together, we grow stronger. Today, I have a guest who will share his story. I'd like to welcome Eric Lee. Hi, Eric. How are you?
Doing fine, Kimberly. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I look forward to this topic.
Likewise. Yep.
So, um, before we get into the topic, I just wanted to see if you wanted to tell people a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm originally from Lancaster, PA, where I still am. I've only ever lived in Pittsburgh, having gone to school out there and worked in radio
Oh, wow.
many years ago,
Hmm.
and have four kids, nine grandkids, and
Wow.
it's like, yeah, it's quite a gathering when we're all together. So,
Definitely.
yeah. And so that's my background. I've been in business for 41 years,
Wonderful.
doing voice work and production, both audio and now video, and
Great.
some script writing, things like that. So working with
Perfect.
a lot of people over the years.
Definitely. So, so for today's topic, we were actually going to talk about using the skills of seasoned employees to benefit a company, correct?
Yep, absolutely.
So, what are some things that you think are useful for a more seasoned employee versus a new hire?
Well, um, there's a lot of exuberance with youth.
Mm-hmm.
There's not quite as much experience.
True.
And being in for me, being in a recording session that I've done thousands of them by now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I've encountered a lot of different situations, directing talent, handling a client, even the technology end of it now.
Yes.
And so just having an understanding of what works well and directing people, but it
Mm-hmm.
really comes down to experience and
Yes.
hopefully the good kind of experience. Just because somebody has experience doesn't mean they've learned the right way to do things.
True. Very true.
If you practice the wrong thing, it doesn't lead you to perfection. So, but somebody who's grown in their work,
Mm-hmm.
has seen, for me, I'm understanding as a writer what the script is like. By
Right.
default, I'm a proofreader, so
Mm-hmm.
coming across grammatical things in a script or typos or things like that, it sounds, normal, but
Right.
it comes in really handy and it saves time. And
Definitely.
these
Yeah.
days, time equals money. I think it always
Yes.
has.
Yeah, this is true. You know, it's
So,
an extra set of eyes also for someone who knows what to look
right.
for versus someone who doesn't,
Yep.
right?
Yeah. I mean, I've had sessions where, 6, 8 pairs of eyes from a client company have looked at a script
Right.
and you still miss things. It's just part
Yes.
of being human.
Mm-hmm.
But
Definitely.
and I think along with experience comes people skills. Now
Hmm.
that's not an automatic, but
Correct.
um, it's just like anything else. Personality plays into that, of course.
Hmm.
But to work with people and to get to a place where you understand how to nurture them, guide them,
Yes.
correct them when they need it.
Hmm.
In my case, it's just trying to convey what a client might want, even if they can't explain it the right way.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, give specific enough direction to a voice talent, let's say.
Yes.
And so being able to work with different people with different personalities and
Hmm.
still have them understand, okay, I'm for you in this. How can I help you in this? Taking a servant's attitude. I think
No.
that's been the key thing that I've learned, and for that matter, I'm still trying to learn.
That,
Um, but
that's wonderful.
and I think the key thing, one more key that I've noticed, and maybe it's because of lots of things that we've all experienced in the last 4 years since the
Hmm.
pandemic.
Right.
Uh, Isolation has just really, really hurt relationships.
Yes.
And with experience and people skills, you realize, okay, if we're going to get to the desired result, it involves people. And
Hmm.
so I've got to encourage people, I've got to guide people,
Yes.
I've got to be willing to be guided. If
True.
somebody says, hey, um, maybe we ought to do this, if a
Hmm.
client comes up with an idea during a session and that's not what I had in mind, or even that maybe I think won't work as well, I'll
Hmm.
still say, okay, I'll do it the way you like. But relationships to me are what's missing today.
Yes. That
Everybody's on their
connection, right? Like you said, they are on their own. It's more about what do they need versus what as a group can they join
Mhm.
together to gain,
Yeah,
right?
yep. So those would
Yeah.
be the things I would say someone who's been in an industry for a while or even just working for a while. It doesn't matter if you're in the same field. The sense the elements of experience and people skills and relationships, it really doesn't matter what industry or field you're in.
Very
They
true.
all involve people.
Yes. So, would you think it's a little bit different than mentoring, or do you think it's about the same?
I think mentoring can come into it, and
Hmm.
I know that there are is a changing perspective about all of that over
Right.
time, of course, but just that people can connect with somebody who's, I'll say, been there and done that and has
Yeah.
the t-shirt to prove it.
Yes.
Um, so mentoring can be part of it, but in my case, I'm the sole employee of my company. So
Right.
I'm not in a mentoring role, but at times I do, as I said, direct sessions or
Hmm.
work with clients, so it's all swirling around that. Mentorship is great. Uh,
Right.
that's I think what younger people would really benefit from.
Hmm.
Um,
You do coaching, don't you do voice over coaching as
right,
well?
I do. And that's taught me a good deal about it's funny, it's almost like psychology is almost the biggest part of coaching
Really?
because I've had people voiceover students who
Mhm.
maybe don't project in a good way in a studio.
Right.
It can be because they're naturally timid, or
Yes.
it can be that they, like a lot of people, um, they don't like to get up in front of people and talk.
Yeah.
So even in front of a microphone, it's
Hmm.
still so, there can be, I'll say, psychological reasons,
Yeah, no, it could
if
be
you will.
intimidating, right?
Yeah.
It could be very intimidating.
Um, but from the standpoint of why somebody speaks a certain way, or if they talk fast, or, I have to slow them down, but there might be
Mhm.
a reason behind all that, that
Right.
if that surfaces, then they can be much better, much freer.
Hmm.
And it's really shown its benefits.
See, and that comes with the experience for, you've you've seen enough, you've learned enough where you can start to pinpoint, okay, I think I know why this is happening, right?
Right, right. Yeah,
Where a new person, they'll have to go through all the different phases and it may take a while,
right. Yeah.
right?
And trying to learn something on their own. I mean,
Yes.
you can do that,
Hmm.
sort of. But
Might take a little bit longer.
yeah, maybe a few decades longer, but
little bit, yeah.
yeah, but just to say, okay, here's what I'm hearing, and
Mhm.
more than just, because I'll help somebody with pacing or
Mhm.
tone or pitch
Right.
or inflection. And one student I worked with, she had a particular cadence,
Hmm.
and it just felt a little sing-songy.
Okay.
And until she heard it and realized, and I pointed it out to her, she comes from a theater background, so
Okay.
you can bring a lot of theater and acting skills into the studio.
Right.
You have to leave others behind.
Hmm.
So that's, script interpretation and things like that. There's a commonality there, but with with some things, it's just like, okay, you don't have to make sure the person in the last row can hear you.
True.
You're actually in the studio, you're actually talking basically to one person. I
Hmm.
personally think that everybody hears things individually, even if you're in a stadium with 100,000 people. Everybody has their own idea.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, their own perception.
Yes, definitely. So, would you say that not only is the experience a benefit for a seasoned employee, but they're the one that if there is an emergency, they'll be confident in what they're doing. They'll know how to handle it, right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, yeah, because they've probably been through it before.
Exactly. So they'll be a little more calm, right?
Yeah,
They'll have a couple ideas.
right.
Um, right? So I'm sure you probably experienced things all, through all these different things where you've had to think quick, like, oh, how
Oh
can I
yeah,
do this? Right? Or we could do this instead, or however, you handle the situation.
yeah. Well, I usually say technology is wonderful when it works.
Very true.
And especially now, everything, I mean, I used to have a hands-on mixer,
Oh,
mixing board.
wow.
I don't anymore. Everything's within the computer.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, what you see behind me there is the mixer with all the different tracks and a multi-track production.
Oh, wow.
So and it takes time to learn it.
Yes.
So, sometimes technology doesn't behave.
I would agree with that statement.
I mean, anybody who's been on a video call knows that.
Yeah, you
So,
freeze, you have
right,
extra sounds, all that
right.
fun stuff.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
And so instead of saying, okay, like years ago when I would
Mm.
think, oh no, what I don't even know what to do. Well,
Right.
now I know
Just
what to do,
see.
or I
So,
know who to call.
well, that's
That's
important too.
right,
If you can't do it, who can help?
right. Yeah,
Right?
yep,
So over the years you've made, I'm sure, plenty of connections and through that now you have a list of, okay, this is the person I'm gonna call if this happens, right?
yeah. I'm
And I'm
very glad
sure
there are, yeah, I'm
I'm
very
sure
glad
it's
there are
reverse.
people that know and love computers inside and out.
Oh yes. Not me.
Yeah.
I like them, but no,
Oh
not
yeah.
not no.
I use them too, but
Exactly.
my, so yeah, but
Okay,
that's
great.
that's important.
Definitely. So, what would you recommend to companies actually who they don't take the full picture of the experienced employee and use them to their full potential?
Well, one thing that comes to mind is just plain old ego.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Somebody who's at a middle management level or even higher,
Right.
or even the company owner, if it's a smaller firm, perhaps.
Yeah.
Um, they want to protect their job,
Right.
or we've always done it like this.
That
So
is a very damaging statement that people say, right?
yeah, I mean, why should we change? I mean, this is our tradition.
Hmm.
I built this company. I know what's going on. Why do we
I've
need
heard all of
anything
these
else?
before,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. And
Yes,
I've had to be careful too, even though I'm the only one in my company.
right.
You know, I have to be careful that I don't think, oh, well, gee, I know it.
Yes.
I know what I need
Yeah.
because I've realized all along that asking for help is a good thing.
Yes. I think that's one of the key things to show experience when you can admit it, right? When you can
Yeah.
actually say, hey, listen, people try too hard to look good, that
Mhm.
it causes more problems in the long run instead of just asking for help in the beginning,
Right.
right?
Yep. So
Right.
there's that. And one of the things that um, also I thought of was I wonder how much management in companies really know their people.
Yes. Very true.
Um, because, you know, you can go into a job and do it,
Mm-hmm.
um, and leave and go your own way and go back in the next day and do your job and go your way. And
Right.
but if I wonder if companies are missing a lot of advantages and benefits from getting to know their people more personally, because there
Yes.
may be some even hidden skills
Hmm.
that could benefit the company
True.
and that people just really want to use, but
Hmm.
their job description doesn't include it, or you know, other aspects like that.
That's so important.
Relationships, yeah,
Yeah.
relationships seem to be on the downturn,
Yes.
at least
Yes.
from my perspective.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, this technology that we're using right now, hey, you can connect with people all over the world.
Yes.
I still like in-person recording sessions though, because
Of course.
then it's okay. They can see expressions. You can see how somebody's reacting.
Hmm.
Um, so
No,
those are
I
things that come
agree.
to mind.
No, it's great technology, but like you said, it's still missing that human element.
Yeah,
It's different. The smell, the touch, the laughter, the way they do the facial experience, everything like that.
yeah,
So, no, definitely. Um, and I do agree that like companies, I've seen it myself where um there are people who have such a wide variety of skill set, and they may have just taken whatever job was open, not because that's what they're skilled for,
right.
but that's what was available. And you may find out that that person can do your job better than you. You know what I mean? And it usually what happens with that, you'll find I've seen it in action. You'll see someone see that you're having a problem, right? I told you if there's an issue, right? And they'll be able to help fix it. And
Yeah,
you'll, right? And they'll be like, how do you know how to do this? And you'll, oh, I have 20 years experience in this, right? Right?
right. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
And for somebody who does have a longer track record in business,
Yeah.
it could be with several different companies. It could
Mhm.
be in several different fields.
True.
And, like you just said, they may have insight into things because they worked in, XYZ
Yes.
field before coming to ABC company.
No, it's so true. And like I myself, I've jumped around in different spots throughout the year. Like when I work in a hospital. I started out in human resources, then I ended up in nursing administration, then I ended up as a budget analyst. Then I did staffing, but like I jumped all around, but I was able to use each of those skills in each of the role that I was in, but
Yep.
nobody knew exactly like, hey, how did you know how to do that? Right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's same idea. Um, So
Eh,
how do you think we could suggest companies try to find out more about their employees? Any
Well,
ideas? Besides talking, right? I
yeah,
know, so funny.
yeah. And I mean, even one of my sons works for a virtual SEO company. So,
Hmm.
but and I've been glad to see this, his direct supervisor lives in an adjacent state.
Okay.
So they do get together in person
Oh,
rather
good.
than, even though people in the company are spread all over the place,
Right.
Canada and the United States. So,
Right.
but that's where I think the real benefit comes from is
A
knowing.
one-on-one.
I really think if companies invest in relationships,
Hmm.
however that works, and to,
Yes.
I mean, it can be as simple as playing a game.
Yeah. No, for real. People just need that connection, right?
And you see their real personality sometimes when you
Yes.
when you when you get involved in a game, because it's
Oh,
like,
true.
okay, who are the drivers, who are the people that
Yes.
sit back and go, yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah.
um and just knowing those kinds of things about someone, and it's not anything other than, okay, how do they how do they act in different situations? Not that you're
Yes.
trying to figure them out necessarily, but just that with that insight, you can encourage them to
Mhm.
say, hey, what do you think about this idea, if they tend to hold back?
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
it's kind of giving them guidance to find out more about themselves, even, right? They
yeah,
might not know what they're capable of, but when someone is watching and listening, they can say, oh, okay, you know what, maybe they would be good for this project, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um, those type of
And
things.
it would be a motivator. Now, I haven't worked for anybody else in a long time, but
Yeah.
when clients say things about, the result of a project or whatever, that they were happy, and of
Hmm.
course, happy clients are the best clients,
Of course.
but that motivates me to say, okay, great. I'm glad that the effort that I took, the talents that I bring, that you're happy with it and it's the right result for you. That
Exactly.
that motivates me to keep doing that.
Right. I mean, like you said, you like to be a servant. You want to do a good job. You want the happy result to be the final thing,
Right.
right?
Yep.
Yes.
So, um, and if at all possible, try to diminish the causes of isolation.
Mm, yes.
Now, obviously, because of COVID and the pandemic, that
Yeah.
that
Wasn't
changed
so easy.
so
Yeah.
so many things,
Yeah.
and people's idea about what work should be and the freedoms
Mm-hmm.
that they should have. And wait a minute, you
Yes.
want me to come into the office?
Yeah.
I'm
It
kind of
changed
used
a
to this other
lot.
style.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everything's changed.
So, and for some companies, they are virtual and people work all over the country. So meeting in person isn't always possible, but
Right.
there are still ways to connect people, and just to find out more about them personally. Because
Yes.
if companies invest that way, um, I know when I worked at a radio station many years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and the program director hired me. I was 21. He hired me. I had not worked in professional radio before. I worked at the
Ah,
college radio station, but never professionally. So
okay.
he took a flyer on me,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the first promos I put together, he was very happy with it, and I'm
Ah,
like, all right,
that's
I'll do some
it.
more of that, you
Ah,
know.
see? Yeah,
So that I learned that early, and I'm glad I did, because you know those kinds of encouragements,
yes.
compliments, they go a long way. Because
They
how
really
many
do.
how many times a day do we all hear things that are the other way?
True.
That, you know,
Very true.
you know, the negative, the hey, you didn't do that right, go back and do it. You have
Right.
to stay late, now it's
Yes.
okay.
Right.
Okay, okay, those things happen, but if somebody knows that their supervisor or their boss or the company owner is, I'll say, for them,
Yes.
it's like, hey, okay, you know, let's fix this and
Correct.
change it the next way or next time, but
Mm-hmm.
and create that culture of encouragement where people know that, okay, I may take a flyer on this, but I'm
Right.
going to try it because it's different.
Exactly. Right. They're giving value to the person, right?
Yes. Yep.
And I think that's what's key, focus on what people are capable of doing, inspire them if you can. If you can give them that chance, let them fly, let them do it, and see what can happen. And if they don't fly so well, fine, then you teach them,
Yeah.
right? Guide
Right.
them, help them, but at the same token, like you said, keep it positive.
Yeah.
We all are learning, so
Yeah.
you don't have to make it such a hard way of learning,
Right. Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And by encouraging people, somebody can tell in a company, that has several people in it, let's say.
yeah,
Clients can tell whether they like to work for that company
yeah.
or not. That's pretty
True.
instant. I mean,
Yes.
you go into some places and you can tell almost immediately that
Hmm.
somebody really doesn't like to work there. And
No,
that
it's true.
that makes me wonder, do I really want to be at this restaurant or,
Yes.
convenience store or whatever?
Right.
Because I'm like, well, if you don't want to be here,
Right. Well,
I'm not sure I want to be here.
true. It
But
sets the tone.
yeah,
Yeah.
and maybe another way could be having people work together in teams,
Yes.
because I'm back to the I'm not wire and solder in terms of setting up technology. I'm glad I have someone that I can rely on who's great,
Right.
and they know how to set all that up. If they show me how to use it, then fine.
Right.
But I know I don't have all the talents that I need to have a business like I do.
Hmm.
So talents tend to complement each other.
Definitely. And that's where the team comes into play, like you said, right?
Yeah,
Um, each individual may have a skill set, but and I am always saying this, together everybody's stronger by using each of their strengths,
yeah,
and complementing it and building that team.
yeah. And
Yes.
having that kind of atmosphere, where well, that same radio station that I first worked at,
Yes.
it was positive. People were like, yeah, try it. The next
See?
one I went to, it was
Not
the
so
exact
positive.
opposite. Oh no,
See?
it was, well, okay, that's an idea.
Right.
We'll get back to you. And
Mm.
nothing ever happened and you never heard anything. And
See, and that's
it's like,
not good either. They need to give feedback, right?
yeah,
How are you going to grow if you don't know what's going on,
right.
right? So it goes back to communication, no matter which direction you're going, right?
Yes. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it just killed off anything that I stopped coming up with ideas, or at least
Ah,
that I would say, hey, have you guys thought about this? I
right.
stopped after a while because there was no point.
When people aren't listening, then that's when the voice stops, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
So,
it's true. So, I was gonna let you know, the podcast is gonna end soon. Okay. So I didn't know if there was other things you wanted to let our listeners hear about.
well, I just launched a new website.
Oh, that's
So,
great.
Yeah, it has voice demos on it and all the different services that I can offer to people
Perfect.
to say, hey, you want to get your message out there. And now, of course, there are hundreds of ways of doing that.
Yes. What's your website, Nate?
It's ericleeproductions.com.
Perfect. I'll put it in the comments so people can look at it as well.
Great, great.
S- And so with your website, what other items do you also offer people so that they know?
Well, it covers anything from voice talent, which
Hmm.
can be for commercials, website promos, narration for video, video editing, script writing, podcast production,
Perfect.
um, audiobooks,
Nice.
and let's see what else. Coaching, like you mentioned earlier.
Yes.
I both coach voice talents that are either already in the business or want to
Hmm.
get started in the business,
Oh,
and
wonderful.
even professionals business people who just want to get better at presenting, whether
Great.
that's live or even like this, where they can
Hmm.
become more confident.
Perfect. So, I will put your website information. Is there any other way that they can contact you?
I'm happy to get an email. That's
Great.
Eric, ERIC, at ericleeproductions.com.
Perfect. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for doing this podcast with us today. It was a pleasure meeting you, and I look forward to some of our other conversations we're going to have.
Yeah,
I know
I
we're going to
really,
have more podcasts.
okay. Well, I really appreciate it, Kimberly. Thanks. Good
Thank
talking
you.
with you too.